my name's Will Erickson from Momentum Academy. This video is for people evaluating Bubble.io. I hopefully will give you everything you need to know in the next few minutes so you can make a good decision regarding Bubble. So what is Bubble? Bubble is a proprietary cloud-based web application builder, including a visual programming language. It was founded in 2012 by the Bubble Group in the USA. The core value prop of Bubble is that it enables non-technical people to build web applications without code. So it removes the need to hire programmers to build a web application. In my mind, it takes about 20 to 40% of the time that coding would take to do a lot of common web application use cases. How much does it cost? Bubble has a free plan, although it has a lot of limitations on that plan. To really get started, you would need to jump onto the basic plan, which is $29 US a month, and that's suitable for small internal projects or hobby projects. But then it really jumps up to $119 US a month to $349 US a month when you need to start hosting something that you could deploy at a moderate scale with a lot of users. So you'll note that Bubble's pricing is not per user, per database row, or any of these other measures. It's just per app and how much workload that app consumes. The apps are hosted on AWS in the US, and you can also buy workload tiers, which mean as your app's workload increases, the demand, then you can pay for additional tiers. There is also some enterprise plans. I won't talk about that too much now, but they are of course at a higher level of spend. So what can you build on Bubble? Well, you can build and host fully customized web apps. So that means applications that work in the browser, on a computer, and a mobile device. So what is a web application, if you're not familiar with that term? Web apps are websites, but they have things like dynamic data. So you can sign up and log in, you can create an account, you can have databases with different types of data, you can have workflows, so when things like a button is clicked, things happen behind the scenes to create transform data, show different things, and you can connect into different things like web services, payment gateways, email providers, anything that you can really think of that has an API, you can connect your Bubble app to. You can also build native mobile apps in Bubble using some third-party service providers. So that means you can build something and put it into the Google Play or the Apple App Stores. There are some limitations to this, but it is certainly possible. So what kind of use cases does Bubble make sense? I would say if your use case can be solved with off-the-shelf software, for example, a SaaS product, then that's a great solution because it's right there. You start paying for it monthly. There's no huge upfront investment. Bubble makes more sense though when that solution does not offer you the customization that you require. You might have a new idea, you might have a business where you can't find the right software, you might be building a startup, you might want to build something internally for your own company. All of these are great use cases. Some of the things we often see requested are 2 or 3-sided marketplaces, consumer B2B solutions, internal web platforms, e-com, social networks, really anything where a customized level of development is required. So in terms of the strengths of Bubble, I would say that it's very fast to get started. You literally create an app, you get a blank canvas with styles, workflows, a database, storage, and API, all right there, nothing else to do. It's hosted, you've got the development environment hosted, you've got your test and your live environment, so it handles the code versioning systems. You don't have to do anything, and that is awesome because even getting that stuff set up for a non-technical person can be a huge stretch, virtually impossible. The second thing is Bubble is vertically integrated, so the front end and the back end sit on the same infrastructure, and that reduces development time significantly. So if someone wants to use Bubble as a front end and connect to an external back end, it really increases the time involved, but when you use Bubble's front and back end together, it's very, very efficient to create web applications. So Bubble also handles all the hosting. They handle the cloud architecture, the way that the content is distributed and caked around the world, security, version control, deployment, and even the underlying code base. So when new programming languages or libraries of code come into vogue and old ones sort of get deprecated, then in the traditional world of programming, you might have to build those old applications again. In the world of Bubble actually takes care of that. So you really are relying on the 40, 50 engineers hired by Bubble to build out all the functionality that you enjoy, and you just get to build on top the business logic and the things that your business requires. The fourth thing is Bubble has a really great community. So there's plenty of resources out there to support you, including training, mentoring, forums, and even partnering with agencies to build your product. The next thing is Bubble is mature. So a lot of the features you would expect have already been built. If you go to a newer solution, often they just don't have the things that you really need. There's also a wide range of Bubble plugins available. So what are the downsides? What are the limitations? In terms of the limitations, the three most significant ones I would see are the lack of support for immediately creating native mobile apps. So there are features of native mobile apps which Bubble can't natively build, and so that is definitely a limitation. Also, the issue of vendor lock-ins. So like many solutions, Bubble effectively controls your code base and your hosting, and you can't separate those two things. So there is no ability to take that code elsewhere. Bubble has committed to releasing its code should it ever cease to exist. But that being said, that can be an issue for some people and some use cases. The third thing will be that hosting is currently only available in the USA unless you're on a dedicated plan, which can make some use cases hard to address, particularly in Australia or Europe. You might find it difficult to build for government or for financial services because of that limitation. So in terms of learning Bubble, what is the learning curve? I would say Bubble is accessible for anybody to learn. In our experience, it takes about 3 months of full-time work to really become proficient with basic to intermediate tasks. And that means you could get employed in 3 months should you work hard to do that. It would take more like a year of full-time work and completion of a number of projects to get to an intermediate to advanced level. But once you get to that point, you could expect to build a proof of concept for a new idea. Might take you 10, 15, 20 hours just to build out that prototype. An MVP, which is a better sort of representation of the idea that feels complete, say 1 or 2 features, could take 100 hours, 150 hours. And then on top of that, if you had 1,000 hours or more, you could create a complicated, mature web application, web platform, and you could be selling that and creating a viable business from that. So how does Bubble work in a team environment? I mean, it works great as a solo developer, but how do you interact with other team members? And the good news is Bubble has a collaborative cloud development environment, so multiple users can make concurrent changes. It may be a little bit more difficult than tools such as Figma to see exactly what people are doing in real time. So there is a need to communicate outside the platform so that you don't make conflicting changes. But the new version control system is really great. So you can have multiple developers making changes concurrently to different features and then communicating, hey, can I merge my changes back to main? Yep. How about you? Yep. Let's do some testing. Okay, let's push live. So there's a lot of ability and control in that new Git style system that has been implemented. Is it secure? This is a great question. The answer in short is yes. Bubble is hosted on secure technology. So AWS services are some of the leading cloud providers in the world. And it also offers a lot of security credentials and ways of securing the data here. So have a look on the Bubble page about security and you can learn much more about that. Now, in terms of what we do as a development team or a developer, it's also our responsibility to secure the data. And so Bubble allows for table level security. So you can say this data type is totally private, or it's only allowed for logged in users, or it's allowed for this particular user type. So you can limit the data at a table or a data type level. You can also do that at a row and a column level in the database. So Bubble is built on PostgreSQL, which is a SQL database. And so you can potentially say, okay, you can only see these rows in the database if you're a particular user. So it might be that this user belongs to an account, and so that account might have 10% of the rows in the database, and you can write a privacy rule to limit that user or users within that account to those rows within the database. You can also do that at a column level, so you can say, all right, this user type, this is a junior user or a limited user, they can only see these columns in a data type, but a more senior user can see all of the columns or different columns in the data type. So with table, row, and column level security, you've got the ability to create really complicated user roles. You can create an account structure like a SaaS product. You can create a two-sided, three-sided marketplace where you've got different people looking at the same data in different ways. And you can create whatever hierarchy, whatever parent, child, grandchild level of hierarchy your data access requires. So it's really, really impressive, the complexity of what you can build. It's basically the same as custom code, and it is built in a secure environment. So is Bubble scalable? Well, again, Bubble is hosted on AWS, which is one of the main cloud providers in the world, and it's also scalable in the sense of you have elastic capacity in your app. Bubble's new workload-based pricing model is actually really helpful because you can scale up the app as demand increases. So I think what I find is that Bubble's scalability is also a lot related to the developer implementing the app. Certainly for small data use cases, and I would define that as data sets with hundreds of thousands, millions, even tens of millions of rows, then it's perfectly suitable for these kinds of use cases. If you're going for a true big data, read-intensive platform where you've got huge volumes of data being written or read every minute, so think about if you had to build Facebook or something of that scale, then you're going to want to go to code because you're going to want to control all of the very micro decisions that are being made at every level of the stack. And so it would not make sense to build such a huge big data platform on Bubble. But for anything that's in the millions, tens of millions of rows of data across many data types, Bubble is perfectly suitable. And what that means is, we've had clients who have raised $5 million to build out their Bubble app. They might have got a Series A round, and I think the important thing is that the tech stack and the scalability of the tech doesn't correlate to the scale of what can be built. One of my developer friends said to me, even Stack Overflow is just running on a small number of like EC2 instances on a Postgres database, which is like this monolithic sort of solution that in this world of microservices seems old school. But if a site that's that big and useful can be running on that sort of tech, then I think Bubble apps are really comparable to that. So how Bubble can scale is well beyond the use cases of what a lot of people need it to do. How does Bubble work in different verticals? I'd say there's some hard and soft reasons to choose Bubble or to avoid Bubble. So hard reasons would be things like industries that require compliance with HIPAA, which is an American healthcare standard. At the moment, it's not supported by Bubble, and SOC 2 compliance has just been achieved by Bubble. So those are hard reasons that you might or might not go with Bubble. There's also soft reasons, like you might be building software for enterprise clients who want a certain amount of control over the different elements of the stack. It might be the type of encryption used. And so depending on the requirements of these clients, they might or might not be happy to use Bubble, even though Bubble is using best practice and current standards of these things. They might have a particular requirement which makes it hard to satisfy. And in these cases, your product might be saleable to many of your potential clients, but some others may not be happy to use it. So it's hard to say. That's more of a soft limitation. So who owns Bubble, and is it popular? How is it going in terms of usage? So Bubble was founded in 2012, and it was a bootstrap company until a few years ago. In 2021, Bubble raised a significant Series A round of $100 million, and since that time it's really been investing heavily into reworking its solution, making it more scalable, building out features that will take it much further than where it is. So another interesting thing is Bubble has a counter on its landing page of accounts. When I joined, it was about 700,000 back in 2020 when I started my journey as a Bubble developer. And now it's at about 3.5 million. And so I think this just shows that there is a huge demand. People are exploring Bubble. They want to know more about what it can do for them. They're looking for cost-effective ways to achieve and implement digital transformation. So I would say the popularity is really increasing. It's on a growth curve up, and it's a really interesting time to consider Bubble as a solution, or to consider working in this ecosystem. So what are the other alternatives to using Bubble? I would argue that Bubble really sits in a very unique middle ground in its own niche. There are different options all around. So there's what I would consider to be off-the-shelf SaaS products, things that you can just grab a CRM, understand it, implement it. No development, no risk. It's just something that is there. Then there's also, I'd describe it as true no-code tools. So things like Zapier, where you can just make a few little settings and connect up two different applications to make an API call without any programming experience or knowledge. And those things can be awesome to do simple little integrations or to automate small tasks. But often they do have some sort of limit in terms of their scalability, or even just the ability to control the accounts at different levels. So that's the limitations of no-code, low-code tools. And also they do reach a point where they're not that flexible. Then I'd say there's enterprise no-code, low-code tools. So things like OutSystems, even Salesforce could possibly be considered there. But these things are really expensive, and they do really only fit within that enterprise business model. I mean, they do offer features that work for the enterprise. They offer a lot more customization, but at the same time, there is a cost associated. And then, of course, there's code. So code is fully customizable, but it's also really expensive. So you're going to need a team of 2, 3, 4, 5 people in-house. So you're burning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to support your product. And also it takes much longer. So you're going to take 2-3 times the time to implement. So there's also a cost there. A really great Bubble developer can achieve what 2 or 3 engineers can achieve in the same time, particularly in the early stage startup space, and even scale ups and small medium enterprise. So I hope this has given you some things to think about. I hope this has given you some ideas about, is Bubble the right solution for my particular use case right now? So this has been brought to you by Momentum Academy. We offer training in Bubble, which is world class, and I would love to meet you, hear about your goals, and hopefully see you achieve great things. So thanks for listening. Check out our website. Hope to see you soon.